Welcome to Writer Syndrome, podcast about writing from start to finish. This episode, we're getting into violence in writing. I'm Russ Capasso, and that's Tim Letney.
You know, you started out as such a smooth intro. I was like really impressed.
Yeah.
And then it just fell apart at the end.
Yeah, I just want to get to our names. I was like, and I'm Russ.
And I'm Tim.
And I'm Tim.
And this is Writer Syndrome.
We have syndrome. Okay, Tim, how are you? No curveball questions for you. I just like to ask how you do.
I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm not feeling violent.
Okay, that's good.
All right, good.
You didn't choose violence today?
I didn't choose violence.
Me neither. So violence in writing. I think I don't know. What's your thoughts on violence in writing?
I mean, I think, as we always say, it comes to genre expectations, you know, to the level and intensity in which you're going to have violence or not have violence in your book. I think we both write in genres and subgenres that there is some expectation of action and violence, or violence and horror.
Yep.
So I'm excited to talk about this one because I think maybe our perspectives are similar, but our use cases are definitely different.
Definitely different. I agree with that. But yeah, I think the first things first of approaching violence, probably wouldn't have thought about too much when writing Host, but now I'm thinking a little bit more about it. Is definitely like you said, know your genre, know what you're doing, and know your audience too, because you don't want to kind of alienate them. You know, if you have kind of an established group of people who are reading your books, maybe know what they're expecting from you.
Yeah.
Thinking through the ways to approach writing violence. There's two approaches, right? You're either very detailed and you're showing it off, right?
Yeah.
Or it's, you're leaving stuff to the imagination, that implicit approach, right? Which might, again, I think that comes down to which genre you're writing in. Like a cozy mystery, you're not going to be showing limbs getting taken off or whatever. And even in crime and mysteries, usually you see the body, but you don't get all the details of the goriness of what's happening. You get kind of okay, there's a dead body. Now we have to go solve how that happened.
Right.
Talk about our own experiences as we're going through this. Obviously, you writing horror, as I'm reading through your book, you're going with the detailed.
Yes. So with Critical Mass, it's a very detailed approach.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I didn't wrestle with it, because I did. Because I think when you are writing a detailed approach to violence, it can be really cringy, or it can come across as try-hardy or inauthentic, right? So I wrestled with that a little bit. Like very early on in the book, in a non-horrific scene, in one of my drafts, I had one of my characters get into a violent scuffle against some coworkers. During the edit, I was like, there is no reason whatsoever for there to be violence in this scene. It just didn't. I wanted to write it that day. In that moment, it felt like what the character would have done. As I learned about the character and learned about the world more as I went through it, I deleted it. I deleted the whole thing. It didn't need to be there. Yet there are, I'm writing in horror and kind of like an apocalyptic type scenario. So there is this kind of visceralness where you're fighting, monsters, right? And I think in that subgenre of horror, there's an expectation of violence and gore to some extent. So I lean into that in some ways. Sometimes I do it for comedic effect, and now that sounds silly, but I think it's possible in that subgenre. And sometimes I do it just to be grotesque. Yeah. And there's a grotesqueness to this book. Whereas I'm thinking about the next one, this ghost story I'm telling, none. There's very little violence. There's trauma, there's anticipation, there's fear, there's dread, but there isn't the kind of visceral violence. So they're two violence. There's no physical violence, right? Yeah. There's a lot of physical violence in Critical Mass, though. Yeah. What I found out, with my own writing, I always took the detailed approach. And I do think in a book, there's room for both, right? There's room for inference and there's room for the detailed approach. Yeah. What I did do is I reduced my detailed approach. Yep. I know it's important to follow characters in space, and you don't want to just present them with the outcome. Right. In the same respect, I feel like if you're so reductive that you're going they punch with their right hand and their left hand and they pivoted, and I was getting a little too granular, and it became a chore to read, and that granularity made it feel try-hardy to me. Yeah. So I pulled back a little bit into broad swings as opposed to short
Yeah.
jabs, if I'm sticking with the metaphor.
Well done.
I think some of that's just learning, as a first-time writer. Well, first time's wrong, but at least a writer, attacking a full-length novel. It was a learning experience.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm happy with where I landed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it wasn't without a whole bunch of editing. And it was all intentional. I'll say that I was really, really cautious of, one, delivering, and two, not, alienating by being too reductive.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know violence isn't everybody's cup of tea, but in theory, if you're picking up my book in this genre of horror, in this subgenre of like an apocalyptic creature feature,
Yeah.
I think there is an expectation that I need to deliver on in that subgenre.
Yep.
Otherwise, I don't know, it'd be my take at horror literary fiction or something. And I wasn't here to challenge tropes, really. I was doing my best to create my own spin on them.
You write your first story and you get it out there, and people then like continue on your thought there. If someone reads your book and they're like, okay, this is this author's style, right? And either I'm into it or I'm not. It's kind of weird to think about how that might kind of pigeonhole you in a certain way, but it's also like, well, that's your style and that's the way you write, so that's what you're expecting, and that's what you're going to continue to write, maybe.
I think that's why people have pen names sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And I had that concern about the next book, because the next book really is much different than the first book, tonally.
Yeah.
I think my writing is still there. I think my DNA is still kind of on it.
Yeah.
But it's not this kind of grotesque, macabre, violent piece. It's more about fear.
Thinking about my jump over from from Host to the next book, and it's definitely more violent because the
next book is, but you say Host, your first book, not particularly violent?
Not particularly. I mean, there's definitely there's like two standout moments that I can think of. I mean, you just read it, but
yeah, I did. So the one that comes to, you certainly have you have inferred violence, which is,
yes.
I love that scene and the slow realization of the reveal of that inferred violence. I won't spoil anything.
Yeah.
But it's worth reading. But I love that scene. And I think that's a great example of inferred violence and the dread that comes with that without being as visceral, because your main character could have come to the scene 10 minutes early.
Yes.
And seen what had happened and heard the sounds and smelled the smells and,
Yeah.
Instead, it's just this abrupt, like, dawning on the slow realization of what's happened, which I really love. It's very, very elegant.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted that kind of dread to build up, but it's also thinking, I think, once you get into getting into the details or, implicit, leaving stuff to the imagination, I also think keeping in mind the characters and what they might see and what they might do. Like you said about yours, where you like wrote this really violent scene, you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. Writing that scene from Elliot, who is not a violent person, who is just a normal human being, who has not experienced a lot of violence, that would be like, I want that feeling to come through. And he gets sick, like, it's not like seeing something like that, you're not going to just be like, okay, that's cool.
Right.
And I'm more interested in that too, the human reaction to the violence and how that impacts him. Because I think he, like, first of all, adrenaline kicks in and he wants to get away from it. Yeah. And then immediately after, he's like throwing up in a bathroom.
Well, I mean, I think that was so real and true to life because first he dry heaves.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Then he's throwing up later. And then he's shook for like a day or two in a dark apartment, right? Like he is just coping through it.
Yeah.
That's something I struggle with, right?
Yeah.
Being in the genre that I'm in is that I've got these kids who are dealing with an otherworldly type situation.
Right.
So how do they cope or not cope? So where I landed is that most of the violence that happens in the book is at least rooted in the emotion or the motivation of the characters. Yeah. Because I don't really have time for them to go pontificate mortality, but that's they can't go digest. Right. Because it happens in such a short amount of time, they're just thrown into it. But I do feel like if you jump from, oh my God, I forget what it was, but I watched some movie at some point where, two characters had just kind of met earlier in the day and they're thrown into some terrible horror situation. Yeah. And then like 45 minutes in, they're just covered in blood. They've murdered a bunch of people and then they're kissing. Yeah. And it's like, none of this would happen. Like, no, you'd be so gagging on each other. With this trauma. So tonally, it just didn't work. But I wrestle with that. Like, how do you introduce violence to non-violent characters without pulling the reader out with the
Yeah.
reactions
But there's like
or
a
lack
year,
of reactions.
but then again, coming back to like the genres too, and the expectations, like, yours leans into creature feature, which I think you have a leeway to not need to necessarily dive into like the human reaction to that stuff, where
Yeah.
I'm leaning into a little bit more like now, maybe 10 minutes into the future type of, fiction, where it's like I'm leaning into the real world, like this techno thriller, aspect.
Yes.
Obviously, I don't have like a Jack Reacher type thriller thing or James Bond thing where they can just go around and beat everyone up and there's no consequences whatsoever.
But then Bond versus Reacher, incredibly violent.
Incredibly violent.
Horror movie, Jason Voorhees violent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which really took me off guard when I first read it, because it doesn't read that way to start.
Yeah, I think a lot of action thrillers are going to do that, especially when you have like the tough main character, the silhouetted guy in the front of the book. And I think that's kind of an expectation of the genre.
To me,
Like,
it ruins the morality of the character a little bit if they've all of a sudden just like, I like my Batmans and my Daredevils or whatever, where they're not that they have a strict no kill, but it's not willy-nilly Jason Voorhees killing.
Yeah. I don't. That's
they try to incapacitate as much as possible.
Yeah, and then I think about, later on in Host, the other violent scene, I guess, is the fight scene in the museum there, right? But that's like reflective of the characters in this situation, right? Someone's life is in peril, and I have, Blackwell goes in and tackles this guy, and it's a short fight scene, but it's like, I kind of want it to be realistic for those characters and what they're doing. Like that makes sense for him to come in and do that, right?
And it made sense for your main to not do that. That your main is kind of, trying to get away. There's a bit of a chase. He's, he knows he's being followed. There's that anticipation, that dread. He doesn't all of a sudden turn into a super soldier and fight the guys.
No.
You have somebody who would be trained in something like that to,
to do that moment.
Yeah.
And also, I think that helps build like that fear too of like this person potentially getting hurt who can't defend themselves at that level.
Like you have another instance with Lilo, and I absolutely love that your hacker character, where she's kind of, I don't know if it's a server farm, but she's kind of infiltrated a building, and she kind of gets chased out.
Yeah,
but she's not, jumping off walls and doing spin kicks. She's She's a hacker. She's running away.
Yeah, that's yeah. And I think like, oh, she's a fast runner because she did track in school or something like that. It's like, okay, like.
And you used it as an opportunity to build a little background of the character as well, which I like.
Yeah. So
what about the next one? So if Host is kind of inferred violence and grounded and not necessarily visceral, is your approach changing for the book you're working on now?
Yes, but I think it's still reflective of the characters. I'm going to go through and really talking about this, making sure that that's my approach. But I mean, this one, it's now a group of hackers, including Lila, they're being tracked by a hitman. So okay, hitman is that's a violent person, and I immediately have a scene, and it kind of is twofold. One, it sets up to show that how this person can handle themselves in a violent situation, just so the reader knows, like, okay, this guy can dole out the damage, like this is fitting for him, and now it sets the tone for things he could do later on or can't do. But I still have him struggling with the stuff that he's doing, and that's like a running theme throughout. What he's doing, is he doing the right thing? But he's got a little bit more of a stomach for it because he's done it so much. Like he's kind of become a little desensitized to it, but he's like still struggles with it. He's seen some stuff, but now the actual violence itself is, I get a little more into detail with it just because it's a little more actiony with this character. I'm not like getting into like the muscle exploded and blood, flew over. I'm not getting to that level, but I'll get into like how the punches feel and gunshot wounds, and I won't get into like heavy gore with it, but I'm going to make it feel realistic. And there's going to be some things where I'll just leave out, because I don't think it's necessary. But I would say it's probably like PG-13 light R rated violence.
Okay.
Maybe.
What I'm realizing about Critical Mass as you're talking, it's very violent. But what I'm realizing is that most of it is violence gone wrong. Nothing's a direct hit. These kids are very messy.
Yes.
It's just sloppiness. It's like, aiming for the head, but an ear coming off.
Yeah.
It's throwing things, but missing 7 times before you hit it.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm reminded of like Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age talking about like, where's the fun in writing a guitar solo that sounds good? Like he tries to do like from his perspective,
Sloppy.
they're like broken, sloppy guitar solos. Like maybe a little out of tune, maybe the strings bent a little bit, it's a little discordant.
Yeah.
And I think that subconsciously is my approach to violence in that book, is that it's these kids are not skilled at this. They're not. They're just kind of fumbling through this house of horrors.
Yeah, I think that's a good point though, because like even in my book, like shooting a gun and hitting a target is not that easy. It's pretty hard. You know what I mean? And you're gonna miss, and things are gonna miss. And even trained people are gonna miss. Especially in a moment, especially when adrenaline's going and your hearts are pounding, and you're in this moment, right? Of like, what do I do? And that violence. I mean, there's some people who are trained to control that. I think a bit more.
Yeah.
Also, knowing going into writing these scenes, unless it's supposed to be like a James Bond kind of campy thing and/or genre fits it, like it's going to be messy, it's going to be sloppy. People don't actually really, when they get into these situations, they don't really know how to fight. Most people just don't want to get hit, So it's not about landing the right punch. It's like, just don't hit me. I'm going to hopefully get lucky,
Yeah.
But having those people who are trained, like my hitman, he's got the background for it. And, I dive into his history, but just knowing it off the bat that that's what he does, he's going to have some way of controlling this. I don't want to make him like a James Bond, Jack Reacher, silhouetted guy in the front of the cover of the book type of character. He's not a superhero by any means, but he just knows how to handle himself in those moments. I think there's the other aspect of like how detailed to actually get into it. But
is that something you're writing in this genre of the silhouetted man in front of the Capitol building, running through the mall?
A little bit.
Are you subverting expectations by not delivering on that trope?
I think a little bit. I think so.
Or you're just taking what you like and leaving what you don't?
Yeah, little column A, little column B, I think. It's like what I want to see. I don't want to see this. I don't necessarily want to see the superhero guy. I want to see the reactions. I want to see the human reactions to doing the things that they're doing. Like I want there to be consequences for, like, you can't just go around, kill somebody and Jack Reacher everybody. There's got to be consequences to this. Like just physical, and psychologically, there's got to be something to that. I think, at least. And I think that needs to be portrayed, at least in my stories I want to tell. I want that because I want the characters to have that depth of humanity.
I was going to say they're human.
And like, I want that, like I'm writing something that has a lot of violence in it, but you got to understand that there's consequences to, physical, mental body there, and I want to capture that. And there's still a human reaction, but it wasn't just violence for the sake of violence. Like it needs to play some part, that's important.
It's making me think of Cormac McCarthy again, which he has some violent books.
Yes.
Without the human element, really, but there is reaction time. But for him, it's like punctuations of violence.
Yes.
Which makes it feel all the more intense because it's not wildly detailed.
Yeah.
It's present, but it's not wildly detailed.
Have you ever tried, I was reading, so long story short is, make sure any of your violence you're doing is making sure it matters to the characters and that it matters. Don't just do it for the sake of it, doing it, right? Like,
what are they fighting for?
Right.
Why? Why is it violent? And, if you have the time, how does it make them feel?
If you have the time.
I didn't have much of the time.
Have you ever, I was reading someone, one of these blog posts, maybe it was Gene Friedman or Writer's Digest, and the poster had offered the idea of writing a scene twice, one with all the gore and the extra bits and pieces, and then one without it, and rereading it, reading both side by side and seeing which one sits well or feels right to you as the author. I thought that was kind of an interesting approach, and I have kind of done that where I wrote scenes one way and I was like, this doesn't sit for me, and I don't need this, Yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I can't say that I've done it other than just editing so many times, but I don't think I've ever, flat stripped out the scene.
Yeah, I definitely did that for this next book where and I'm still in first draft stuff, but I had written a scene and I got kind of like really into like the violence acts and I read through it again and I was like, I don't know if I don't need to get into this.
Is it because you felt like you were like glorifying violence and you didn't want to glorify the violence?
Maybe a little bit of that subconsciously.
Like fetishizing, or it was just inauthentic?
Yeah, I think a little bit of that, but also just stood out from the rest of how the book was going. It wasn't it wasn't so much that. I mean, definitely, I think a little bit of it where I was like, this doesn't fit what I want to do here. This isn't the themes or the things I'm trying to get across here. I don't want that to stand out as the thing,
Yeah.
But then rereading it and reading the entire chapter, I was like, oh, this just doesn't fit the writing. All of a sudden it feels like it's just like I stepped into a whole different book where it's like really, really violent. I'm like, I don't I don't need
Yeah.
this. I don't need this.
Yeah.
I don't need it. So I think it's kind of interesting to look rereading through scenes and understanding my own writing, which maybe, sign of maybe figuring this out, but like seeing that it didn't fit for
You set a tone that you didn't follow.
Yeah. And it was just like, that was why I kind of cut it down. It wasn't for any other ethical reasons or stuff like that. Maybe a little bit, but just wasn't necessary.
Whereas in Critical Mass, I set the tone by having a dairy farm worker fall through a cow,
Yeah.
a mushy cow.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm on for this ride.
I think you'll know immediately whether you want to continue reading my book or not. It's like,
Yes.
it's like 7 pages in, you're like, nope.
Yeah. 7 pages in. I think
I probably should have held it.
No, I think it's good. I think it's good to
I know what
let
you're in for, I guess.
you set the expectations, you set the bar, come along for this ride.
Yeah.
It's only going to get worse.
It's only going to get worse. Yeah.
In a good way. So, great chat. Good stuff. What are you watching? What are you reading?
I am reading comic books.
Yeah. My response is so goofy. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because that new Daredevil show's out, and
I haven't watched
it's
any of it.
pretty good. I like
Okay.
I like the Daredevil.
I do too.
So I started reading some of the standout Daredevil comics, like Born Again, by Miller, and then
have
I
that
started
So good.
and who is it? I'm forgetting the name, but one of the more contemporary ones.
Yeah.
And the writing's pretty solid,
Yeah.
and the art is quite beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been reading that. And what else have I been reading? I feel like I was reading something else that was pretty good. Finished Host,
Nice.
your book, which was very good.
Thank you very much. I didn't pay him
Oh,
to say
you know
that.
what? I cracked open. You know how I was reading the Southern Reach trilogy, Annihilation,
Yep.
and Control, and whatever the other one is.
Even more annihilated.
Yeah, the second book really had lost me.
I remember you saying that.
I mentally have this I just want to get through the things that I'm in the middle of.
Yeah.
Shows and movies and games. Maybe it's the time of year, it's spring, but I just want to put all that stuff to bed.
Yeah.
So I just want to get through this darn thing.
Clean slate.
Clean slate. So, and I hear the third book in that Southern Reach trilogy is quite good. It's just the second one, at least where I am right now, I feel like I'm treading water.
Yeah. Does it feel like an act 2 of a trilogy? Like, does it feel like act 2? Like,
No,
it's just,
it feels like the appendix of a book I didn't want to know more about.
all right.
It's like the Lord of the Rings appendices. It's like, do you really want to know more? No,
No.
I don't. I don't
just,
want to know
just
more.
tell me this story.
But I think it will change. Right now, there's a bureaucracy to the story. It's like the bureaucracy of the company that sent the explorers into the Southern Reach.
Yeah.
And this guy named Control, who is kind of a new hire, fish kind of sort of out of water story of this office space and the mysteries that lie within and the history of it. Which honestly, saying it out loud sounds super interesting. So I think maybe I was so excited by Annihilation, and it's not Annihilation. It's something very different. So I need to reset my expectations and just kind of get back into this and get through it. So that's what I'm reading. Watching Daredevil.
Nice.
That's about it, I think.
Yeah.
And then speaking of backlog, as far as games, I fired up Death Stranding again.
Let's go. Go deliver some packages.
Just walk in. It's so funny, right? Because I'm like, this game has beaten me. I've had it for 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just a walking simulator. It's just a walking simulator. And then some wacky, story thing will happen. Like just completely absurd.
Yeah.
Like Lynch on acid thing will happen.
And it sucks you back in.
It sucks you back in. And then you get into the monotony of delivering packages. You're like, I'm just a dad. I'm just delivering. It's a Zen moment where you're kind of meditatively going through the atmosphere. And I was like, I'm into this. And then they're like, you left a dead body. And if you don't get it, it's going to explode. And then your game's over. So then you trek back 500 miles to get the dead body, to drive the body to the incinerator. There's so much backtracking that I feel like every time I make forward progression, they're like, no, you almost had fun. You have to go back and fix the thing. You didn't read the small text on our cluttered UI close enough.
Great. I have it. I have not dove into it because I've heard very mixed reviews about it. So,
it's beautiful and frustrating.
Yeah. We have two friends who are really into it. I won't say who, but they were really into it.
And I can
enjoyed
see
it.
why.
Yeah.
Like when it works, I mean, I guess it's always working. It's just whether it's your cup of tea or not.
Yeah. They also mentioned that the end, I'm not going to spoil anything, but they said that the end game moment, like when the game wraps up, is like a 2.5 hour long experience that you can't get out.
Really?
Yeah. Like there's some, like basically a movie plays or something like that. They said it's like forever. I was
I
like,
mean, talk about just surface level writing. Like the metaphors, you can't even call them metaphors.
yeah.
You know, it's like we're trying to connect society.
Yeah.
We're literally connecting society. All these things are connected to us. There's literal, like, shadowy space umbilical cords. You know, like
Connected, yeah.
everything's just so on the nose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't wait to watch 2 hours of that. Play out at the
You got a
end.
sequel coming too, right? The Beach or something?
The Beach,
Yeah,
which,
Death Stranding
you know.
2, The Beach. Like, great. So now you're going to.
Well, because I think the beach in this lore, in this world, exists as a purgatory type space in between this world and the world of the next.
Got
like
it.
And the beach is before you transition into the shadowy realm. I don't know. There's time travel. Like I got thrown back to World
What?
War One for some reason. I don't know why.
What's
I had to fight skeletons. I don't know. It's so
Sounds
ridiculous.
So ridiculous.
Anyway, so I've been working on that, and I need to talk about this very, very briefly. I fired up the VR again last night and put on Resident Evil 4 in VR.
Yeah.
I can't believe I've got this thing collecting dust in the basement. It is
fun.
like it's so fun. It's so engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a little jank here and there with your hands, but like I was just standing outside of a church for like 5 minutes looking at it. You know, looking at the architecture, looking at the foliage. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
ignoring the zombie people. Like it really gives you a sense of place that you tend to sprint past in a game.
Yep.
And because of that, I think it's exhausting.
Yeah,
Like I played for an hour. I felt like I took a trip to Florida or something. You know, it's just like it felt like travel. I was like, wow, I need to go lay down after
Yeah.
playing this video game. I think that's why I don't do it so much. It's so immersive.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of takes
And
it really
it
out
feels gimmicky until you're in the gimmick and you're like, oh my God, like this
cool.
is a lived in space. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very cool. And at a bare minimum, it gives me such an appreciation for video game artists who are making these assets and, you know, pouring their like waking hours into making a space that I tend to just run through, slash a box and run away.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Being in there in 3 dimensions really makes you appreciate the nuance and like
Yeah.
what they've done to these sets.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
Closest thing to being in a horror movie I've ever felt.
That's cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. Anyway, how about you? What are you watching, reading, playing?
Let's see. I finished that Ghost in the Wires book about the hacker from the 80s, 90s, Kevin Mitnick. Fascinating life story. I'm in progress of Critical Mass by Tim Ledney.
Oh, I hear that one's great.
It's fantastic. I'm a handful of chapters in. I'm going to finish it in the next week and a half for my buddy here.
Thank you for reading it so I can submit it to my little contests and try to get published again.
Let's go.
And then I'm going to give up in the fall. And then I'm going to self-publish.
And then that's it. And then all is lost.
Then I'll try to get the next one published.
I'm enjoying it. I'm seeing
You have
some
to
of-
say that.
No, I would be like, this sucks. I would let you know.
Oh, thank you.
No.
You didn't say that during the beta. And it did.
Well, no, but it's you're iterating, you know, and
I'm iterating.
and you just keep making it better. At the time the first time I got it, I was like, oh, this is good. It definitely needs some work, which, you know, that was feedback. But
Yeah.
this feels I can sense the work that you've put into it, and yeah, it's fun. It's fun to read so far.
So many. It's nice because I'd be so disappointed if you read the beta and then I put literal thousands of hours into editing it.
And then I was like,
And
this
you'd be like,
sucks
oh
more.
yeah, this is really similar.
I
I mean, it's similar, but like, I don't know. It felt like through my inexperience, really,
Yeah.
the editing process was so cumbersome.
Yeah. It can be. It's something I need to think about for coming soon, but working through that, I started this book called Between Two Fires. I keep wanting to call it Between Two Ferns.
Two ferns? Yeah, I keep expecting you to say that.
It's not Between Two Fires.
Okay.
It's a medieval horror, an epic tale of medieval horror, kind of like a historical fiction-y type of thing. We got a knight, we got a little girl who can do some stuff, and we got a priest traveling through plague-ridden France. And it would be right up your alley, I think. I think you would enjoy
Oh,
it.
cool. Let me add it to the list. Between Two Fires
Yeah, Between Two Fires
by
by
Zach Galifianakis.
Christopher Bielman, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's if you go to his website, he's like written plays, a lot of poems, and he's only got 4 books out there. I think, and this one's This one in particular, I think is self-published because there's no copyright information on it. It's just
Really?
yeah. So I think this one was self-published. I think this was his second one, maybe. But he does have like literary representation and stuff. So maybe for his later books, his other two, maybe those are covered. I didn't do a lot of digging on them, so. But I'm enjoying it. I'm going to see how it goes, and I'm enjoying his writing, so I might check out his other books.
So it's
too,
published. It's published by Ace, which is a subsidiary of Penguin Random House.
Okay, so it's an imprint of them, yeah.
But it's like it's like their independent imprint for science fiction.
Interesting, because the copy I have,
Westerns.
It just starts. There's no copyright page. There's no indication of publisher. There's nothing to it. It's book acknowledgments, and even on the back it says printed in like North Haven, Connecticut, which makes me think it was like print on demand, which they could still have done. So I'm reading that. I'm enjoying that. It's good.
You know what? I think you're right. I think maybe it was self-published initially and then maybe picked up at a later time.
That makes sense.
That's the dream, baby.
That's that's where all, I guess, right?
Keep on toiling.
Let's keep writing. What am I watching?
So these soulless sales hacks can finally pay attention to us.
Yeah. That's one way to get their attention.
That's how they get their attention. These tasteless sales.
Soulless hack.
Trying to sell money.
Please buy my book.
Buy my book. Please
accept my book.
Please, sir.
I'm not watching anything. I started that slow horses with Gary Oldman. I got like 2 episodes in. I don't know my motivation I guess I'm not also around at night to sit down in front of the TV.
And you've been writing a ton. Like you're writing 1,500, 2,000 words a day.
Yeah.
Your brain is filled with your own movie right now.
Yeah, and I get to nighttime. It's either I'm pouring beers at the brewery or I'm just going to bed. I'm playing some video games and going to bed. So not watching a lot of stuff. I did see Star Wars New Hope and Empire Strikes Back on the big screen in Western Mass, which was
I've heard of those before.
Have you? The little indie films? Yeah.
Yeah, those indie films.
Pretty good. You should check them out again.
That's the one with the Enterprise?
Enterprise, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool. They were on the big screen. So was it a drive-in or a theater?
No, it's a theater out there in Western Mass, the old Amherst Cinema.
That's not Western Mass.
Western Mass, Tim, please. I know you're
from Western Mass.
I know you're from Western Mass, but honestly, anything outside of the 495 ring is Western Mass to me. Outside my door.
Pittsfield is Western Mass.
Outside my door.
Amherst is Central Mass to me.
Pittsfield, that feels like there's a point of Massachusetts where it's like there's like a void and then it turns into New York.
Yeah, that's exactly where it is.
It was exit 3.
I used to literally ride my bike to New York. That's how close my hometown was.
Oh man, I've seen it on a map.
That's where we got all the fentanyl.
That's 43 pounds of it.
43 pounds of fentanyl.
So they were doing a James Earl Jones thing for the month. So they're playing all of his movies, a bunch of his movies. So they had the Star Wars trilogy going. So I caught it out there. It was a lot of fun. So also, if you're in Western Mass, stop by BookLink bookstores and grab a copy of Host because it's on their shelf still. So,
I love that. That's awesome.
It's also in the Somerville Public Library. So
I don't want to go on a tangent, but I'm gonna real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Speaking of Star Wars, I got Disney Plus again and I burned through Loki season 2. Is Acolyte worth watching? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
It's fine.
Have you watched Skeleton Crew?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm pretty much done.
You just saved me several hours of my life. Thank you.
And some money. I mean, Acolyte's fine, but it's I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Like everything else that they've done with Star Wars, it's
just
fine.
a hollow.
It's fine.
Time sink.
Yeah. Cool. Lightsabers. Fine. So,
all right.
Playing, I finished the Batman Arkham Knight. I decided to just crank through the story and be done with it.
Yeah, you didn't want to be Gotham's bag boy, right?
Like running around. There was
Bagman.
I guess so. There's this gameplay mechanic where you have Two-Face in there, and you got the Penguin, right? And Penguin's he's got like these weapon caches, and what you have to do is you have to follow around these vans. You tag them, and you have to chase them around Gotham, right? And there are like 2 criminals in there, and they're like, "Oh, but he's on our tail. Oh, I think we lost him." And then they bring you back to the hideout, and then you go and you fight a bunch of people, and you blow up the kill weapons cache. That's like the gameplay mechanic, right? That's the puzzle. I got to like the third iteration of that, and I tried it 4 times. I couldn't keep up with the van. I said, I'm done. It was such an annoying like gameplay mechanics. Yeah. They make it increasingly harder, and I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, it's not
Sorry,
rewarding.
Sorry, Gotham City. Yeah, it's just tedious at this point. Like, it's not fun. So I just was like, you know what? I don't care about the Stranded Fireman. I don't care about this Two-Face. I'm just going to finish the story. So I just cranked through it. Almost saved Catwoman, mostly, but
All right.
Beautiful game though. Still looks great. I mean, that game came out a while ago too.
You've played through that already, right? This is your second time?
No. I never finished this one. I finished.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'd finished the first two, and I had this one on the shelf forever. And I just put it in because I wanted to play as the Dark Knight. So
Love it.
scratch that itch. And it's good. I think the storytelling wise, the actual story is good. The way they play with Joker and it gets really freaky and kind of weird. You got Crane there, Nightmare guy. What am I playing his name?
Scarecrow?
Thank you, Scarecrow.
Is this the one where Robin becomes a villain? Or is that the one before?
This is that one, yeah. It's
Okay.
Jason,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. He becomes a villain.
Okay. I
You kick
faintly
his
remember
ass.
that one. I
You
played
kick his
through it, but
ass.
a million years ago.
Yeah, it's good. And then I'm getting back into this Metroidvania style game called Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a 2D, they call it a 2.5D style game because it's like,
Ugh, make
I
me
know.
roll my eyes in the back
I
of my
know.
head.
It's 2D side, but, with 3D character. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's a lot of fun though. I got back into it. I'm like you, I'm trying to like go through my list of games and like, all right, let's pick one. Let's go through for the story and have some fun,
Yeah.
and don't get stressed out about the million games I have in a shelf here,
Yeah.
I'm almost getting to the point where I just want to have like one or two games installed and that's it. So I can't get distracted. But
I had like a little stack of games I was playing next to my TV, and I was like, this is my little stack of things I'm playing.
Yeah.
It's 10 games deep now. Those are just the new ones. Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know. It's
yeah.
and the thing is this because I'm not playing much.
Yeah.
Is the deal.
Yeah. You should
Which
be
I guess
right.
is good. Now,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to write again. I'm just trying to build the muscle.
Yeah.
Only 500 a day, but I'll get up to my thousands.
You'll get there. Takes time. But that's it for me. So
All right. Well, thanks, man.
yeah, no problem. Thank you. That's our episode. We're done. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with the next episode 76.
76.
yeah.
Hot tamale.
Gonna get into pacing, which I think is a good one because I think about pacing all of the time.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's an important one. So we'll get into that. If you enjoyed this, share with a friend. Follow us wherever you're listening. Download us, which is great. Give us a review, which is helpful.
Like and subscribe. Smash
Yeah,
that like button, fam.
Oh, God. I hate my life.
Join our Patreon.
Yeah. $1 a day. You can find us on Instagram, which we're gonna. I don't know.
We might.
We might get back in it. Writer Syndrome Books. But you can find all of our episodes and contact information at Writer Syndrome.